Hello and welcome to Planted Nutrition. My name's Luke. I'm a nutritionist, and in this video, we're talking about 5 nutrition tips for optimal health. Number 1 is to understand the elements of a healthy dietary pattern. And this is understanding that all experts around the world agree on this. All of the nutrition experts that have been studying nutrition for their lives. There's a huge amount of research out there, and I know if you're scrolling down social media, it can seem like there's a lot of conflicting and confusing information, but there's also so many people out there that they just post up whatever they want, and they can make a story that sounds compelling and sounds good, but when you actually listen to experts, they're more careful about what they say, they're more nuanced. And while there's not the ultimate healthy diet that's the best for everyone, everyone's gonna be a bit different, there is what we call a dietary pattern, this general, consistent set of themes or patterns that are important for health. And you know what that is? It's a big shock. It's probably eating more whole foods and eating less processed foods. Wow, haven't heard that one before. But it's not necessarily sexy. It's easier to blame a certain ingredient that's making us all sick. Or no, it's the government, they're poisoning our food. They want us to be unhealthy so they can make money from the pharmaceutical industry. And let's just not get into that. Like, maybe some elements of that are true, but what is important are the key points of a healthy diet. And actually, if you look at the government's dietary guidelines in your country, I'm in New Zealand, but Australia, Canada, US, anywhere you are around the world, you'll probably see the same theme. More fruits and vegetables, more whole unprocessed grains. So not white bread, but maybe wholemeal or sourdough bread, for example. Focusing on including sources of protein with each meal to make sure that you're getting enough that you need, and probably including more plant-based sources of protein because they have really beneficial effects on our health. And that is one of the main nutritional problems in our society today, is the reliance on most of calories coming from highly processed foods. And these foods, when they're processed, they basically remove a lot of the beneficial aspects, like the fiber that's important for our gut health, the vitamins and minerals that we need for our metabolism, for our brain health, our mental health, for producing enough energy to feel good and thrive in our lives. And they're also generally quite rich in calories. So it makes it really easy to gain weight. And this is one of the large contributing factors to the obesity crisis that is all around the world at this point. But there's many different variations on this central theme of a healthy diet. And so this is what we'll get into next. Number 2, consistency. Finding what works for you, not what works for someone else, not what works for your favorite influencer online, but what works for you. What feels good that you can stick to for now and for the long term, knowing that it can change a little bit, but within this theme of a healthy diet. So when it comes to our health, what we do in the long term is what is important. Imagine we go on a diet for 2 weeks and we eat really healthy and it's great. But then after 2 weeks, oh God, that was horrible. I hated that, not doing that again. We continue on with what we were doing. What impact do you think that will have over your health in 10 years? Probably 0% impact. But what about if we just made some small changes, but we kept doing those consistently, and we kept doing those for 10 years? Imagine just swapping out your breakfast. Instead of having sugar-coated cereal, you have some oatmeal with berries and some nuts and seeds. That's giving us some healthy whole grains, some protein, some vitamins and minerals, polyphenols and fiber to support our gut health, healthy fats to support our skin health and our brain health and our hormones. And imagine you did that, just that one change, but you did it for 10 years. What impact do you think that would have on your health? It's night and day. And that's why you have to find what works for you. Some people might love to have oatmeal for breakfast. Some people might hate to have that for breakfast. Maybe they find that disgusting. It's important to also know about food is very emotional. Maybe we have some trauma around a certain food and we don't like that food and you don't have to eat it. Some people might prefer to have tofu scramble, scrambled eggs. Maybe something that's even higher in protein and lower in carbohydrates. Maybe that makes them feel fuller for longer. It seems like there might be some genetic differences as well with this. Some people might feel more satiated on slightly lower carb, higher fat and protein. Some people might feel better on slightly higher carb, and that's cool. We're all different. It's not about judging each other, saying that one's best and one's worse and fighting online about it. It's just accepting, cool, okay, this feels best for me and this is within this healthy dietary pattern. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna just keep doing that consistently and feeling good and empowered about the choices I'm making because I know that they're gonna be building health now and for the long term. And so some options like this, some people might love and thrive on a vegan or plant-based diet. Some people might prefer a more like Mediterranean diet pattern. Others might prefer like a lower carb and higher fat diet. But it's focusing on building our diet around mostly whole, unprocessed foods. Because it's like these days, you can be vegan and you can eat Oreos and chips. Or you can be keto and you can eat keto muffins and keto ice cream every day. And that's a complete distraction from what is important. I mean, like, we still want to enjoy our food, right? And we can have these things sometimes. We want to be focusing more on including whole, unprocessed foods because the majority of modern diets are most calories coming from highly processed foods. And this is a big thing that we can do to improve our health in the long term. Tip number 3 is to leverage your time and effort effectively. So this concept of leverage, it's often talked about in terms of like business, but it's like what you can do, the least amount of effort. Imagine a lever, to pull that lever that will have the biggest output on the other end. And that's basically like work smarter, not harder. We don't want to make it hard for ourselves because if it's difficult, we're not going to stick to it. It needs to be easy. It needs to be good. It might take a bit of work in the beginning to make changes and get used to them. Like, that's normal. We want to have expectations for that. But also we don't want it to be a constant struggle every day, feeling like we're forcing ourselves to do this because that is just not sustainable in the long term. You can ever think about this. What are the habits or choices that I can make that will have the biggest impact on my health in the long term? And think about it like this, coming back to what we were talking about before. Do we think including more whole fruits and vegetables in our diet would have a bigger impact? Or taking the latest supplement that we saw in an ad from our favorite influencer? It sounds funny when you put it like this, but almost everyone's doing these things. We're not doing the most important things that will pull that lever the most. It's so easy to kind of get lost and confused, not investing our time wisely. I always talk about like supplements and stuff, great. They do have a place, and if you want to include them, totally. If you can afford that and that's good for you. But there may be a couple of % of our health, but the majority of our health is this healthy, balanced diet, these choices that we're making every day. And then we can, sprinkle in some supplements and superfoods on there if we want to, but that's not gonna change everything. Focusing on the basics is gonna pay the most dividends when it comes to your health in the long term. Number 4 is to control your environment. And this is another point about making it as easy as possible for yourself to succeed. Because the thing is that trying to rely on willpower alone is not a good long-term strategy. Like, think about some other change that you've made in your life. That could be trying to eat healthier, could be trying to spend less time on your phone, for example. Whatever it is, like, how does that work? We need to understand, just as our phones and Instagram and TikTok are designed by expert psychologists to get us addicted to them so we feel like we need to keep checking them, it's the same with food. expert scientists, expert psychologists design the packaging and the flavors and the makeup of fat and salt to make them tasty so that we want to keep coming back for more. It taps into the primal parts of our brain that we evolved looking for higher, more calorie dense foods, and that was a great survival strategy for our ancestors, but now we find ourselves in this unnatural modern environment. So we need to be aware of that, and we need to shift the odds in our favor by controlling our environment. And so again, that might look different for everyone, but thinking about how this can work for you. For some people, that might be not buying those foods and having them in your house, because it's like, if I know the chips are in the cupboard, I'm just gonna eat them and I can't stop myself. But if they're not there and it's like, oh, okay, well, I really am craving chips, but now I have to go down to the shop, it's creating just more time to be aware. So rather than just kind of subconsciously, just going and getting them, it's like giving us more space to realize and remember that we do have a choice when it comes to our health. We can take a moment and think, like, is this really what I want? Is this really gonna help me to reach my goals? Or is this just satisfying some urge that I have right now in this moment? And maybe we can, stop, take a few deep breaths, ground ourselves in the present moment, and we can make that choice and make an empowered choice rather than something that we might have been doing for a long time. It's like interrupting that pattern and being able to build healthy new patterns in our brain. And this completely gets into the next point, number 5, which is to use psychology to our advantage. And that is, rather than focusing on excluding and getting rid of these foods, focusing on including new foods. It's a shift in mindset, but it's this shift to like abundance and wow, look at all these amazing fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and different foods that I can include and enjoy in my life that are gonna be good. I'm gonna love them, but they're gonna love me back. And we want more foods like that in our life, and things like that in general. But it's also super important to understand that like what we believe about food can impact our health beyond even the just nutritional value of that food. And I've done a video about that. Highly recommend checking that out as well. Put that up in an annotation. But we really want to focus on nourishing our body, feeling good and empowered about the choices that we're making. And also, like I touched on before, connecting to our values. And so when we are making changes, connecting to our values is so important. And that could be like, maybe I want to have the energy to play with my grandchildren. Maybe I want to lose some weight so I feel really good in my body and I can go out and feel really confident in the world. Maybe I want to build muscle and start exercising. Maybe I want to eat in a way that's going to support my energy and my mental health and help me to feel really good and give me more focus in my work or my studies. And then when things do get difficult, because they will get difficult, we can stop and connect back to our values. So in that example I talked about earlier, maybe we want to go out and eat some donuts or some chips or whatever. And it's not about judging ourselves. It's not about feeling bad that we have this urge. It's understanding, wow, I'm human, I'm evolved to feel this way, and this is actually really important, and it allowed my ancestors to survive. But I can stop, can take a deep breath, I can connect to my values. What are my values? Okay, well, I want to feel good and energized and focused. And actually, I remember when the last time I ate a thing of donuts, I felt really sluggish and tired and not good. And then we can make a choice. It's about connecting back and remembering that we can always make a choice. And maybe it's like, okay, I've had an amazing week, it's Friday night, let's go out and enjoy ourselves. Or maybe it's like, actually, no, right now what I need is I'm just quite low energy. Maybe I didn't eat enough at breakfast. I need to just have like a nourishing, healthy meal. You do that, you feel good. It's like interrupting these patterns that we've had that were there, that did help us at some point, but now they're no longer serving this version of us that we want to be, living in alignment with our values. And it takes time, and like I said, it's not about beating ourselves up. It's just about being more mindful, being more aware, and each time we do connect back to that and realize that we have a choice, we can make that positive choice. It's going to be changing that pattern, changing our brain. Our brain has the ability to change, And so each time we do that, it's like strengthening these new neural pathways, and it's gonna get easier over time. It's just about bringing that choice into our conscious mind instead of living down in our subconscious. And then we can become the one that's in control of our life and doing what we want. We can choose what we want, but we're not being driven by subconscious factors anymore. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. To summarize it all, being aware of the healthy components of a healthy diet, more whole, unprocessed foods, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, whole grains, to spit them out quickly. Shifting towards that, focusing on including more of them, but also finding a way within that that works for you, that feels good, that you can be consistent with in the long term. And then leveraging your time and effort to make that 20% of effort that's gonna have the 80% payoff. Using your time wisely, working smarter, not harder, controlling your environment around you, and also using psychology to your advantage, connecting to your values, and remembering that you have a choice and making choices in alignment with those values. Doing these things, incredible work. Well done. I hope that you can reach your goals and feel really good. But if you are feeling that you do need more support with this, you can book a free 30-minute consultation with me at the link in the description. This is the work I do with my clients, and there's lots of other options for deeper support if you need it. And if you're just happy to watch the video and that's good for you, then amazing as well. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one, and until then, stay healthy, my friends.